Hello and welcome to Dr. T's ACT Prep. In this video I'll go through an English test, which is a lot like the TOEFL ITP SWE Structure Written Expression. So we have to choose, we have to look at the underlined words here and choose one of the possible changes or no change for each of these things. So we've got 45 minutes. Let's see if we can get through this by 9:15. So in 1948, graduate students Norman Woodland and Bernard Silver took on a problem. So their names are important. If their names weren't important, then that double comma would be unnecessary. And so let's look at getting, we're not going to take that one because it's got 2 commas. And we're going to choose D because, oops, sorry, I'm going to choose C. I'm going to choose C because there's a comma there. We want no commas. So we're going to say their names because that's important information for the question, for the statement there. Next, inspired by the dots and dashes in the Morse code, however, Woodland and Silver created a system of lines that could encode data. Well, I don't really know why we're saying however. Consequently is possible, but it's generally a transition is going to go at the beginning of the sentence. So we're going to choose J there. Next page, number 3. The first barcode is composed of 4 white lines at a specific distance from each other on a black background. Looks good at the face, the value of it. Let's look at the options. Distances so that each was separated one from the other. That's too wordy, so B is wrong. Signs that set specific locations, each one set apart from the other. Well, set apart from the others, I would have plural. And again, this is just kind of too wordy. And then the last one, lengths of distance from each other. That's not quite as clear, so we're going to go with A there. Number 4, the first line was always present. Okay, so we just have to choose the next sentence there. The first line was always present, different sentence, depending on the presence or absence of the remaining 3 lines. So the writer should consider deleting the preceding sentence should the sentence be kept or deleted. Okay. The first line was always present, depending on the presence of the... So we got the first line and the other 3 lines. So I'm going to say we're going to keep it because we're talking about 2 distinct different things. But then why are we going to keep it? Because it gives a clear image of what the first barcode looked like? Not really. Because it begins the description that is completed with the sentence that follows. That's correct. So that's cohesion. Next. Up to 7 different arrangements were susceptible and therefore different encodings. I don't really like the word susceptible. Possible. Susceptible to something, you know, so they were susceptible to misunderstanding. Responsible for, capable of, so there's a prepositional error there. Then today 29 white lines making more than half billing. Making, that gerund, that present participle, doesn't belong there, just at the face of it. 29 lines, that's our subject, and then we need a verb, and then the rest of that sentence is the object. Next, I'm just going to skip through most of this and go on to the next. I think that's probably the best strategy for making up time. Although successful, the concoction was both, I mean, listen, a concoction, that's kind of funny. A concoction has a negative connotation. So we've got a light bulb, oscilloscope, photomultiplier. That doesn't sound like a concoction. A concoction sounds like something my college roommate made for dinner. In fact, he used to call those concoctions, but it is contraption. The contraption was both large and costly. For example, progress stalled until well, that's not the right transition now, is it? It was large and costly, and then as a result, progress stalled until laser technology. Next, number 9. Today's scanners, when black lines absorb the white light, the white lines reflect it back. So what is it? It refers to the light. And so I'm going to say no change. It's not them, because lights, the ones is is sort of bad grammar because one is singular and then you put ones, so it's like plural singular at the same time. We're just going to reference that subject pronoun in the second instance after we name it, the light, and then it's it in the second time we mention it. In this way, the scanner reads the symbology and decodes the information blank today. So which of the following true statements, if added here, would most effectively lead into the new subject of the paragraph? All right, so we're talking about scanners and lasers. The scanner reads the symbology and decodes the information. Then some other sentence today being that there are one-on-one two-dimensional barcode scanners. Probably something in between then and now is what I'm thinking about. So in the 40s, Woodland and Silver were graduate students. No, that's completely irrelevant, or it certainly doesn't follow. Woodland and Silver were granted patent for their barcode. Again, we should be talking about some in-between technology here. Barcode equipment has been available for retail since the 1970s. Maybe, and then barcodes themselves have advanced well. That's more general, and that brings us up to the present time today. Next, today being that there are one- and two-dimensional. Being that there are is fine, it makes sense, but it's a little too wordy. I'm going to go there are. Just if you can use only 2 words instead of 4, that's clearer. To be concise is a good idea if you're writing an essay. In one study, for instance, tiny barcodes were placed on bees tracking their activities. Well, were the barcodes tracking the activities or were the bees tracking their activities? And then this is passive voice, which is not illegal per se. I would rather have active voice. Had been placed, that's passive voice. Were placed, that's passive voice. But again, not illegal per se. Had been placed on tiny bees to track. Fair enough. Tiny barcodes placed on bees which would track their activities. That's an incomplete sentence because we start a dependent clause there. It's going to be incomplete. Tiny barcodes were placed on bees to track, just to use the infinitive of purpose there, to track. Tracking gerund is, in this instance, is going to be more confusing than just using the infinitive of purpose there. And then had been placed on bees. The only time to use the passive voice really is when you're going to show an intervening action or 2 actions that happened in the past. So use had been. So they had been placed on bees, and then the bees were tracked. You'll use the had been past perfect in order to set up a past event that's before they use the simple past. So you don't need to use the past perfect there. Shaping the way we gather, track, and share information. We almost certainly exceeded even Woodland and Silver's. We have almost certainly exceeded Woodland and Silver's. It sounds fine, but let's look at the options. Exceeding Woodland and Silver's expectations about barcodes. Shaping the way we gathered and share information. Oh, no, that's considering the first clause here. Shaping, we're starting with this gerund phrase, shaping the way we gather and share information. There's no subject yet. We need to have a subject, and are we shaping the way that we gather and track information? No, the barcodes are shaping the way that we gather and track information. Read the passage as a whole. Okay. For the sake of the logic and coherence of the essay, paragraph 3 should be replaced with, let's look back at paragraph 3. So creating a barcode scanner, Silver and Woodland had an optical movie sound. So this part is different than the ITP, the TOEFL ITP SWE here. It should be replaced, or should be placed, sorry, where it is now, before paragraph 1. Well, I think the flow of the article is reasonable. So they start out with a history of who these people are and the basic science behind barcodes. And then they created a barcode scanner. And finally, moved into the present time today when the laser light sends information back and forth. So that seems pretty good. I'll say that I'm just going to keep it where it is. Suppose that the writer's primary purpose had been to describe a specific technological advancement, changed business practices. Would this essay accomplish the purpose? Oh, a simple changed business practice. Not exactly. It's mostly, yeah, see there, it's just focusing on the development of the barcodes. It doesn't really get into depth on how it changed business practices, okay? And I'm talking too much through this video, so I don't think I'm going to make time. We've got 75 questions here. As I pulled the camera out of my backpack, I felt a tap on my arm. No photographs, whispered the woman next to me, pointing up to the cave ceiling. Yeah, that looks okay. She whispered while she was pointing. Since the woman is doing the pointing, we don't have to start that next clause with as she pointed or as she was pointing or anything like that. The flash will make them stop glowing, she said, whispering. The floor will make them stop glowing, she said, whispering. Yeah, that's... She said, whispering. I don't really mind that. I think maybe this here is unnecessary. Oh, but so when we do quotations, she's talking before, and so we can assume that the same person is talking in the second set of quotes, unless we're going to say he said or I said. So we don't need to say she said again because she was saying the first quote and she was whispering in the first quote, so that's actually just unnecessary words right there. And if possible, we want to reduce unnecessary words. So while I was traveling on canoe, well, obviously on is going to be incorrect. While I was traveling on canoe. While I was traveling on a canoe, while I was traveling by canoe on a group tour. While is going to set up two consecutive actions. So while I was traveling, something else happened, but there's no something else here. While starts a dependent clause, so we need to get rid of that, otherwise it's an incomplete sentence. So let's just get rid of that entirely. Since I was traveling, although these are both setting up dependent clauses, so I'm going to get rid of that. And then, of course, while I was traveling by canoe. Next, species unique to New Zealand and abundant in these caves, this meandering subterranean passageway would feel as though it were downright ensconced in shadows. Would feel as though it were downright ensconced in shadows. That's just a little bit too wordy. So I believe they're saying it's dark. Ensconced is in shadows. It's downright ensconced, just a bit too much. Bioluminescence, the woman said, peculiarly sensing my curiosity. Blank, a badge was pinned on her shirt, indicating she was a biochemist, I guess, to research the organism. At this point, the writer wants to emphasize the idea that the narrator found the woman's comment peculiar. Which of the following sentence best accomplishes that goal? I figured she had been in the caves before. That doesn't really relate to peculiarity. Surprised, I hesitantly toward her. Yeah, that sounds like something you do if you thought something was peculiar. She had a notebook. No. I happen to agree. No, it's a B. And then 22 was pinned on her shirt. A badge was pinned on her shirt, indicated. It would say indicating if we wanted to use passive voice here. So let's just get rid of that entirely. A badge pinned on her shirt indicated. Next, she explained that to attract prey glowworms are not really worms at all, but the larval stages of fungus and that emit light through their translucent skin. Well, that semicolon there is obviously incorrect. The semicolon is like a full stop, but it's using probably a pronoun to start or something that's relating to the previous sentence. It's going to be like a full sentence on its own, but relating to the previous sentence. And then via is a preposition, so we want via to be right next to that word skin there. From its mouth she showed me all glowworms dangle shimmering. From its mouth she showed me all glowworms dangle shimmering. Well, from its mouth she showed me all glowworms dangle. Each glowworm dangles. Each of the glowworms dangle. So I'm going to go each glowworm dangles. So each is singular relating to dangles. Each of the, generally you don't do each of the or all of the. That's unnecessary. And if you write a document in Microsoft Word or Google Docs, it'll often underline that. Cave-dwelling insects are trapped in these threads, then reeled in like a fish on a line and finally lured by light. Each trapped in these threads, then reeled in like a fish on a line and finally lured by the light. Is that right? Is that the order? Are they first trapped, then reeled in, and then lured? That doesn't sound quite right. I think they'd be lured, then trapped, and finally reeled in. Okay, the light responds to environmental factors. The sound of the splashing water, however, might signal that the prey is nearby, causing them to brighten. The light of the splashing wave, however, the light responds to environmental factors. The sound of splashing water, however, might signal the prey. So we've got light in this sentence and then the sound in this sentence. However is to pose contrast. And so let's do for example. Because the light responds to environmental factors, the sound of splashing water is an environmental factor. And so for example, it's an example of an environmental factor that would make the light respond. Causing them to brighten, well, who's them? The prey? Everything is singular up to this point, isn't it? We've got singular prey, we've got singular light, we've got singular sound. And so let's look at the light, causing the light to brighten. Yeah. And then 28, which of the following choices, if added here, would best conclude the paragraph and refer back to the conversation at the beginning of the essay? So the peculiar thing. Let's look at the quick conversation at the beginning of the essay. No photographs, the flash will make them stop glowing. Okay. And then the light responds to environmental factors, right? Insects are likely attracted to light because of the sky-like appearance of glowworms fools the insects. Not really. She told me that the cave is usually quiet. That's not relating to keeping the camera flash. The camera flash, that's what she was talking about. So H looks best. Our trip neared its end. I spotted a dragonfly in the cave. I don't know, on the face of it, that looks fine. Oh. The writers consider revising the underground portion to the following. Soaring in the light. I spotted the dragonfly soaring toward the light. Should the writer make this division? Yeah, sure. In the cave is just like generally, and then it would follow all of that above mentioned glowworm light stuff that the dragonfly would be following. So A or B, because the revised phrase adds information that explains the no, that's not right. Describes the dragonfly's actions to help support that. Yes, so A is correct. Number 30. I knew its fate, it would be ensnared. I don't like the comma there because this is a comma splice. We've got it. I knew its fate. I knew its fate. So here's the subject, I. Knew is a verb. Its fate is our object, and then it is a new subject, different from I. And so we're going to either need a full stop or some sort of punctuation there. And it would be ensnared, just as I had been by the brilliance of these. Well, what is its fate? That's where the colon comes in. The fate, colon, and then the definition or the further explanation of the fate. That's going to be where we use a colon there. With shears in hand, I clip the thin branch rose bush. I place this clipping in the basket next to me and crouch under this again. Looks fine to me. But let's just double check. Next to me, that's ridiculous. Basket basket next to me and crouch. Now, we don't have a new subject, so we're not starting a new clause. So we don't need a comma after and there. Crouch next to this again. Well, next to what? Yeah, this is very unclear, so next to the rose bush, we need to say that. What am I crouching next to? This is just like, what's this, you know? There I will deposit these clippings in rich soil. Roots will take hold, buds will sprout, and a new plant will become my home garden. Which choice most closely maintains a sentence pattern with a semicolon? There I will deposit these clippings in the rich soil. Roots will take hold, buds will sprout. Well, that's fair enough. I don't mind that. I will see. No, we don't want to start the semicolon with I will see. That's just a totally new sentence because it's not related. So the semicolon is not entirely totally new sentence. It's related to the rich soil, followed by the buds. We don't want to start with followed by. Then come the sprouting buds after that. No, that's not quite right. Okay. 34. Mine are antique roses, old or heirloom varieties. Mine are antique roses, old. Well, you don't need that comma there because old or, the conjunction or only needs a comma before it if you have a new clause, which we do not. We're saying old or. We've got old or, so old varieties or heirloom varieties. We can just get rid of that comma there. G. Sorry, not G. We don't need a comma before varieties. Old or heirloom varieties. Old is more properly an adjective. Heirloom doesn't seem like an adjective, but it's acting as an adjective because it's in a compound noun there. So those are just two adjectives before a noun, in which case you don't need a comma. You need one only if there are three. Compared to vibrant hybrid tea colors, antique rose colors tend to be silenced. Compared to vibrant tea colors, 35. Compared to this, that, yeah, that looks fine. Tend to be silenced. I really don't like that word. Tend to be muted, sure. But silenced, I mean, muted means the same as silence in other contexts, but in this context, muted is correct because the color can't actually be silenced. Now, if you're talking about sound, then muted and silenced are the same thing, but if you're talking about colors, then you can use muted but not silenced. It's a goofy part of English. D, and unlike the hybrid tea whose long stems make into, no, that's definitely, you can't make into, you need to make an object into something else. And so, make for a rose bush, that is, make like, yeah, make for. Make for, again, that's one of those odd prepositional constructions that you might not learn in every math class, or in every English class. In a regular, scraggly-looking antique, make for rose bush that's rather scraggly-looking antique rose bushes can be grown in a variety of colors, handsomely landscaping gardens. Can be grown in a variety of colors, handsomely landscaping gardens. The writer wants to add detail here that best completes the contrast of the hybrid roses with the first part of the sentence. What choice best accomplishes that goal? No change. Antique rose bushes are lush and shapely. Antique rose bushes can grow quite large. Antique rose bushes tend to be less thorny. Lush and shapely. Okay, so we got stems and buds are droopy and short. That definitely contrasts with lush and shapely. Number 39. The plant thrives best when it's exposed to 6 hours of direct sunlight. The plant can withstand extreme something. The plant thrives best when it is exposed to, which introduces the main focus of the paragraph. The plant can withstand extreme temperatures and survive nearly anywhere. It's also easier to grow antiques, cultivating hybrid. So this is like the advantages of having antiques versus the others. A plant thrives best when it's exposed to 6 hours. This is not a topic sentence. That's a detail. So we get rid of no change. The varieties of antique rose bushes are numerous. I don't think we talk about the different varieties of rose bushes. Aside from the rose bushes' beauties, what gardeners like most is appreciated, incredibly durable and low maintenance. That looks pretty good. While I'm fond of rose bushes, I'm also drawn to climbing varieties. That's the sentence. That paragraph is about antiques there. So it's also easier to grow antiques. It is also easier to grow antiques. That sounds fine. Cultivating hybrid teas, having involves? No, that's definitely not A then. Involves. Cultivating is our prepositional phrase. Hybrid teas is the object of that preposition. Sorry, cultivating is our gerund phrase. Hybrid teas is the object. Together they create the subject of the sentence. A process is the object, and so we need present simple to follow the gerund phrase. Gerunds are always present simple, even though, sorry, they're always singular, even though it's hybrid teas plural. The gerund makes it singular. And so we're going to do the present simple involves there. They require far less pruning. I mean, on the face of it, that looks fine. Far less pruning, fertilizing, and nurturing than their hybrid. But let's look at the rest of the sentence. So we start with this second clause here. That's actually the subject. So if we have they, we don't want to say antiques down here, so we're just going to use that gerund, requiring far less pruning. And then we're going to introduce the subject. Antiques can reportedly survive without any care from human hands. In fact, a fact that surprises many. I would rather see a different punctuation there if we're going to use that. So I'm not going to say no change without care from human hands, making them more popular, often blooming for a year even after abandoned sites. Oh, I don't know. Making them more popular, not really. Often blooming between midspring and fall. Oh, so when they bloom doesn't actually follow that they can survive, but that they bloom year after year follows that. It's an important detail. So I dig small. Okay, we're going to then determine which logical sequence. So what makes it most cohesive? In which order should these go? I dig small holes in a pot of soil, place each clipping in half-inch deep and pack down the soil. Back in my greenhouse, I strip the clippings of all leaves and branches. Then I wait. The roots will take hold. Eventually, the buds will sprout. I dig small holes. So 1 definitely goes before 3, but I don't see how 2 fits in here. So I'm going to say 2 goes first, and then 1 and 3. Question 45 asks about the preceding paragraph as a whole. Suppose the writer's primary purpose had been to describe the process of planting a particular flower. Would this essay accomplish this task? Well, it was a compare-contrast article, really. A rose by the name Antique, right? Shears in hand. My roses are not your average hybrid tea roses. So she's talking about the type of flower, okay, so kind of. Yes, because the essay discusses the steps involved in growing and maintaining antique rose bushes, sort of, but it gives a lot of advantages too, like advantages, disadvantages, this type of thing. Yes, because the writer explains the specific conditions needed to plant the rose bushes a little bit. No, because the essay is more focused on comparing the qualities of cultivating it. No, because while the writer mentions growing antique roses, the essay is more focused on the history. No, not that. Okay. Jerry Frey weaving heritage and barter. The winning piece was a basket. It was, again, the winning piece is the subject. If we're going to say another subject, then we need a full stop there. We don't need a comma. The winning piece was a basket 18 inches tall, so let's just delete that. it was made of ash and wood, so they're going to ask us something about, we got A, B, and C. No? I guess these A, B, and, what is this A and B? Hold on, I might come back to that. I'll come back to that later. Okay, in the 99-year history of Santa Fe Indian Market, the largest Indian art festival in the nation, double dash, seems fine to me. The largest Indian art festival in the nation. They could do double comma, but double dash or even parentheses is fine. So in the prepositional phrase starts a dependent clause. We're going to need the event, which is actually our subject, and so we can't do any of these. Then A is the only one remaining. 48. The creator of a piece, 33-year-old Pasquito Indian, Princeton, Maine, the basket. Well, the creator is our subject, and so we can't say no change. That's an oddly worded incomplete sentence. He looked on. So again, our subject is a person. We still need we need a verb. There's no verb. Otherwise, sold can't work for that subject, unless we say as he sold or as it sold or something like that. He primarily weaves the classic material wood from the brown ash tree, but unlike most contemporary basket makers, he harvests, cuts, tries, bonds, but no comma after but no comma after unlike, again no comma after but, no change. 50, then creating highly elaborate version of the study details that have been used by generation. Well, if we start with that, then we're going to need some comma and a subject. Let's just start with the subject. Faye creates. Going on to create, still don't have a subject. Creating, still don't have a subject. Baskets that have been used by generations of fishermen from Maine. Generations of fishermen from Maine. The writer were to delete the underlined portion, the essay would primarily lose. Primarily lose an indication that Faye honors the culture by generations of the detail connects mention of physical characteristics, thoroughly detail that connects basketry to the traditions. There it is. For example, baskets feature complex weaving on areas that are often hidden, therefore typically not embellished. They feature complex weaving on. I don't like on, but let's say a remarkable level of detail, intricately woven bottoms, characteristic interiors and bottoms. Complex weaving, intricately woven interiors and bottoms. The porcupine quill lids are often decorated. The porcupine quill lids are often decorated, which placement of the underlying portion makes clear the art decorates the lid, not the lid itself, is made by porcupine quill. Phrase porcupine quill lids are often decorated. Porcupine quill lids means that the lid is porcupine quill. Which placement of the underlying portion makes clear. After phrase, what? Which placement of the underlying portion makes clear that the art that decorates the lid, not the lid itself, is. Oh, phrase porcupine quill lids are often. Phrase decorates his porcupine are often decorated with art. What? Oh, with art. Oh, okay, sure. That's fine. That was still really quite weird wording. With art inlaid on birch bark, as far as lids go, I wouldn't say it's basic. As far as lids go, it's pretty casual, which is not exactly formulating a lid through the conventional ideology. That doesn't work there. This is just part of his really artistic way, again, or that's a little too casual or colloquial. Bark, full stop. I wouldn't say that it's basic. I wouldn't say that it's, oops, where am I here? Oh my goodness. Oh, that whole thing is 54. Okay, so I answered that question, so good. 55. And while braids of grass are customarily woven, that looks fine, into ash baskets to make them better. We need a comma then. Yep. Fray incorporates braided. Cedar bark creates striking new textures. Fray creates bark striking new textures. To make them better, for what, right? For the sake of the objects, for useful purpose, to strengthen them. That's how they would be made better. Now that it's nationally recognized artist who, of who, you'd have to say of whom. Of who, what? That's, what? Who, just plain who. He's on board the main Indian Museum, a group that works to help preserve it. Preserve what? Preserve, he works on the board. What is it? What is it? Preserve this art, that's fine. His other goal is to continue to stand out. I don't have a problem with that. Distinguish himself, set apart. So this is like circular logic. Distinguish to set apart. Remain someone who gets noticed. Well, remain, that's implying that he continued to remain. It's like the same thing again. Continue to keep on. It's just saying the same thing again. So A. G. The writer is considering adding following sentence to the essay. The black stripes are woven flat, sharply, setting off the white stripes. It's woven even. All right, point A. So the black stripes were woven flat, sharply, setting off the white stripes, which were woven, formed raised columns and perfectly even points. So we would need to see, where are we talking about stripes? Where are we talking about stripes? It was 18 inches tall, vase-like silhouette, no stripes yet. Here we see stripes. It was made of ash wood, finely built with stripes, black and white. So we're going to put it in B. Come on. B, B, B. G. So we're getting there, almost there. 900 years ago, Emperor Zhezong of China ordered the design and construction of a clock. 900 years ago, Emperor Zhezong. That comma doesn't look right because we've got the verb right after. When we have the double comma, we're adding information that we could remove and still have no problem with the sentence. 900 years ago is a time phrase, and then so here's our subject, Emperor Zhezong. And he ordered, and so I'm going to say C. The design and construction of a clock built to, I don't like that. I don't like that built. To keep time, well, clocks keep time. It was built, design and construction, so keeping time, this is just too wordy, J. 63, this would be no simple timepiece, and because Chinese dynasties continued to astrology, this would be no simple timepiece, because what? This would be no simple timepiece. Well, we don't have a comma before because, except in very rare situations. All right, look how long this sentence is. Let's put a full stop. This would be no simple timepiece, full stop, and then we'll start because into the next sentence. An eminent scientist and bureaucrat named Su Song led Zhezong's ambitious project. An eminent scientist and bureaucrat led Zhezong's, oh, sorry, it's 20, sorry, 64. Because Chinese dynasties continued is absolutely the wrong word, adhered to that, and then 65, an eminent scientist and bureaucrat, Su Song led Led, well, the verb tense is obviously wrong. Led. And so we're going to get rid of that one. Bureaucrat, eminent scientist. Imminent or eminent? Oh dear, is it imminent or eminent? Imminent means it's going to happen. Eminent means it's somebody important. Using his expertise in calendrical sciences. Calendrical science? I guess so, but calendrical? Who knows that word? It's a bit much. Building on centuries of Chinese clockmaking knowledge while authoring his treatise. No, after crafting a word. No, G. 67. Suzong created its particular timepiece housed within an ornate flower. Is it house? I guess so. Secure between? It's not secure between. Encased around? No. Nestled among? No. So there you go. At the tower's top sat an armorial sphere, or, again, there's that or after a comma, where we don't really need that. Or a nest. What is an armillary sphere? Let's put our heads together. We're either going to need a dash or a colon. A nest of metal rings represent the, and we got another dash there. So when we do the double dash, then we're defining something. Can't use a colon because it's got that second dash there. Besides is not a good transition. Thus, is it a thus? I doubt it. Inside the tower is sphere depicting the, it's not, definitely not a thus. Sooner or later? No, lastly. That's the last thing they're going to say. Automated figurines would appear on the pagoda's doorway and ring bells to announce hours, sunsets, and seasons, and other chronological events. And ring bells to announce hours, and which would not be acceptable. Oh, which would not be acceptable. Which served to announce? Yeah, that makes sense. It can't say they, because this is a dependent clause. Don't do a comma splice. That's like, in Arabic they do that a lot. They'll say, my father, he, the bells, they, and they'll repeat that. This is English. The clock's inner workings were equally remarkable. I don't know, looks good to me. Therefore, hidden in the tower, water wheel, 7 tower, the entire clock, therefore water would pour. Well, is the water pouring a consequence of the water wheel? Not really. In other words, for example, not really. Not really. So let's just say water would pour. Chinese clockmakers had long used water wheels, but Susong's stop mechanism, I would rather say stopping mechanism, but other than that. I'm not going to use nevertheless or regardless in a conjunction like that. Those are transitions, so you can say no change. Unfortunately, after Susong's clock ran 30 years, invaders stole it. Oh no. Later the clock vanished altogether. Well, maybe it's in the Hall of Clocks over there in the Forbidden Seas. Beautiful, beautiful set of clocks over there. And it would be a few hundred years until the refinement of old mechanical clocks until with. You can't do until with like that. So no change is wrong. Until, don't do double dash, really? Until, oh, they're not even going to let us get rid of until with. It would be a few hundred years until with the, all right, fine, this is spoken versus written English. It would be a few hundred years until, with the refinement of mechanical clocks in Europe, other clocks approach the complicity. Oh, that's, I'm not going to have double comma there. Until with, again, until with cannot go together like that without a dash, fine. In Europe, other clocks approached the complexity of Susong's. Eventually became able, that looks fine to me, and grew, and approached the complexity, grew to attain such a high degrees as that, this is wordy, could even fathom. Well, clocks can't fathom anything, they aren't people. Eventually became able to draw anywhere near, that's ridiculous. A is correct, aha. So it is 9:14. Talked through the entire test and got it on time. This has been Dr. T's ACT Prep. Thank you.